Right, today, Saturday, got the Six Nations kicking off today, so I shall be in to watch that. But before then, I can't be bothered with welding today, so the panel still hasn't arrived, still can't get hold of the bloke to do it. But the next steps with this bulkhead, I want to wire brush all of the paint off, put an epoxy coat on it, then seam seal. But I can't be bothered with the bloody angle grinder today. Bit of a hangover. Good evening at the pub last night. It was fun. So today it's a little bit blowy today, just a little bit. Temperature's about 6-7 degrees, so it's quite pleasant really. Got me gloves and me plastics and thermals and God knows what else on. So I've already stripped down, because I was bored, the driver's side front hub. Disc drums on these things are fucking huge. I mean, look at the size of this bastard. That is a big drum. Yeah. Max vehicle laden weight is 2.7 ton, 2.68 tons. So it's got a fair amount of stopping power, even on drums. So what I've done is I have stripped down the brakes. The brakes were kind of working. These are the old cylinders. And as you can see, yeah, they've got marks in them. They might recover. I'm not going to chuck them away yet. But I kind of don't like putting seals in, putting new seals into existing cylinders unless there really is an unobtainium issue. So I've kept all the old parts. Here's everything that came off the car. And I've been and bought a complete kit of brake refurb kit for a 109 long wheelbase Series 3. And it comes with an awful lot of blue quality parts for Land Rover. So we'll give it a go. And it's pretty much all that way. The only thing that isn't, I bought the master cylinder, brake master cylinder, single circuit, put my teeth in, single circuit brakes on these things. I've got a rather attractive new brake master. And I've also bought a new clutch master because the clutch master was dead, and also clutch slates. I bought the whole freaking lot. These are the shoes, the linings that came off the front. Now, there's no sign of any contamination on these, and I'm kind of in two minds as to whether to reuse them or not. I don't see any reason why I shouldn't reuse them. The only thing is I've got no idea where they came from. The alternative is brand spanking new linings, which don't have that much more meat on them. So I think these linings are fairly recent. I've got no idea of the history of this thing, this car. So van, I should say, it's actually a truck. The speedo says 96. I doubt it's been round. I've got no reason to suggest, well, to believe it's been round. I could look at the MOT history of it, I suppose, but I don't think it's been MOT'd in an awfully long time. Oh dear. That's the registration number. You can look at the MOT history yourself. Printed off the pages from the manual that I've got, just in PDF format. Gives you an indication about how the rear brake shoes are set up with how the springs fit, and also how the front brake shoe linings for the 109 fit, which is good. Gives me all the information I need. Even more useful than that is a photograph I took of this very corner, which shows me the spring location on there to the pin and the orientation of the two cylinders. There's an important reason why you take thousands of photographs actually stripping these things down. So I think next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to work out, we've got a bleed nipple on this. What we don't have though is the brake union, so I need to get my box of brake unions out and start making up brake pipes. I'll replace, so that pipe isn't in particularly bad order, but the ferrule on the end is knackered, the linkage. So I shall remake these up. There's no reason why I wouldn't. We'll get this thing together. Oh yes. This is the reason why I decided to. I couldn't actually even get the bleed nipple out of this one. I mean, look at that. That's spectacular, isn't it? That's one of the reasons why I bought new, and inside there it's not looking particularly good. Oh, there's one thing that never ceases to amuse me, and that's that brand spanking new flexes never come with the nuts or the serrated washers. Can I ask all manufacturers, please, to send the nuts and serrated washers when they send a flexi hose? I don't understand why they don't. And that's why I tend to keep them all. That's the flexi hose for the clutch there. But why? Don't understand it. Anyway, slave cylinders don't come with fixing nuts either, so they go through the back plate and then they fix on. So I've had to go through my UNF. I've eventually established their UNF threads, as are the brake fixings. Now, no end of UNF Imperial brake kind of male connectors, but I've only got one female connector which needs to go on to the flexi, so I'm going to have to salvage that, I think, from the old slave, which is over here. There's no real harm in salvaging these things. They shouldn't be done up medievally tight anyway, but I'll have to get some of those on order. I don't know, what did I do with the... There's another one there. That just needs the old pipe taking out, which shouldn't be too much of a problem. I think I can reuse that. Is that going to fit on there? Yes, correct thread. You can tell if they're correct thread or not, because UNF, I think it's 3/16 UNF, is slightly smaller than M10, which is the typical metric fixing. And these fellas here are M10, as you can see I've got fucking hundreds of them. That was excessive swearing. The M10 nut also screws on, but as you can see it's wobbly, and it will get to a point where it will do up, but if I had to do that any tighter it will just pull the thread. So you've got to be very, very careful when you're looking at Imperial and metric threads and use the right fixing. This is a Imperial 3/16, no wobble. Alright, so be careful. I love this, chaps. Right, okay, so this is the bottom slave on the driver's side. These things are handy, by the way. That's not really a problem. So basically, this is the bleed nipple which was supplied with this caliper, and you don't want to go in at all. There's no way is that going in. So I'm thinking, well, is it chewed up or something? And then it kind of dawned on me a little bit. Shit, is this thing metric? No, this thing is Imperial. That bleed nipple goes in beautifully. So whoever provides these for Britpart has actually provided an Imperial slave with a metric bleed nipple. Well, I know it's metric, so if I get an M10 metric, I put it down there, it screws into it beautifully. One-handed, look, even one-handed it screws in beautifully. All the way. How about that? Shoes on. It's a bit of a fucking balls ache, if I don't mind being so absolutely blunt. And the reason it's a bit of a balls ache is the new springs, gravity, new springs. And the reason it was such a balls ache is because the new springs are just over 5mm shorter in their fully tensed state than the old springs. Now, I didn't use this one again because this one's looking a bit on the ganky side, but I mean, the way you get these things in, using Mr. Jimmy, is you locate one end, the unsprung end, into the cylinder, hook the spring over the pin, which you can see there, get a girt big breaker bar against the flat edge on that corner there, flat edge, and you can lever it. Now, that's all I can do to move that. So I think that these springs are the wrong design. On the bottom one, I had to put the old spring on. There's no way could I get that shoe in place using the new spring. I mean, I might be a 7 stone weekly, I don't know. Anyway, we've done it now. So next I need to, on this fella, I'm just going to wind the shoes so they're right in. I should just check the adjusters work, and the adjusters do work. Donk, there we are. Now you can see on these shoes here that that shoe is definitely pivoting in. So what I need to do is to wind the screw in. I've got my little screwdriver thing here. This might work, this might not. Might need to be a proper screwdriver. This side I can do. So what I do is turn the screw on the back here. This is what I could do with being a bolt head, to be honest, until I'm happy that it's absolutely perpendicular with the wheel cylinder. and that's almost there with that one. But if I go from above here, you can see that the shoe on the left is straight. The shoe on, actually no, it still needs to go a little bit further. The shoe on the right, you can see, is in quite a long way. So that's what these little screws are on the back in. You can see I successfully managed to loosen off the lock nuts. Right, almost done with this side. Get on with the other side then. Right, done that. Going to make up the chassis line now that goes back to the chunk over there, and put the wheel back on and get on with the other side. In fact, I might just jack the other side up and put it on a stand so I can rotate the hubs then. I've backed both adjusters right off so I can rotate the drum, because I don't really want it to. It needs to self-centre anyway. It's easy doing that with the wheel on, because you get a bit more momentum, a bit more leverage. Leverage, I don't know. Anyway, that's that one done. I'll do this one next. Oh yes. Okay, so I might have got a bit berserk with the time lapse and the freeze frame, but I just wanted to get on with it and get it done. One thing you'll notice is I did manage to get the Brit part spring on the bottom of this caliper, but you saw how much I had to pull that. Really pull it, epically pull it. Such hard work. The other thing I found with these is on the original seals, there's a hole right the way through. And on the new seals, the hole is much smaller. Oh, Mr. Gravity. What I found was that the end of the brake shoe wasn't going right the way through the hole and sitting into the slot. It was getting, the rubber was getting in the way. And that's going to cause all manner of problems with the shoes not retracting far enough. So the way I did this in the end, after taking it all apart again, was to peel the seal right back and pull it back onto the shoe, like I have done here, to make sure that it's not trapped underneath the shoe. And then you can see, there's the piston, and you can see the end of the shoe in the piston with the seal around it. And that wasn't happening originally. So originally, the rubber cup on the end of the slave was stuck. I'm going to pull that in a second with two hands, but was stuck between the end of the shoe and the piston inside there. And like I say, that's going to make the shoe sit up too far, and it's going to bugger it up. It's not going to work properly. So the other thing I had to do with this, the hub seal, how many more could I get in? Hub seal on the back of the main hub. This is the hub up here. There's the hub. Let's get Mr. Lamp out of the way. Here's the hub. There's a rear wheel bearing in the back there. That seal that goes over there had failed. In fact, it might be somewhere, it was probably in the bin by now, had failed. And as a result of that, this whole area was just caked in axle grease. Now, unlike the Series 2 over there, which seems to share its axle grease with the hub and with the bearings, this is more like the Range Rover design, where the axle wheel bearings, or the hub wheel bearings, let's say, use their own grease. So I cleaned this wheel bearing up because there's signs of wear on the face, but when I look at it, it's all right. It's got life left in it. I think if I was planning on doing 10,000 motorway miles a year, I'd have replaced the wheel bearings, but this thing's likely to be plodding around, so I'll repack the bearings with grease and put them back on again. Save myself some time there. There's a lock plate up there and various other bits and bobs. There's the outer wheel bearing. That all needs putting back together again, so I can get that done this morning. I put the pins in on the back, so basically these pins here, I probably didn't explain it properly earlier on in the video, but these pins, they're just bolts, threaded bolts with a lock nut on them, and they go through, and then the idea is to level the shoe up so the shoe is parallel to the back face of the back plate. So I'm already winding it out there. You can see it's moving out nicely, and the easiest way of doing this, assuming that you've got a nice straight edge along the back here, is to measure the distance here and here, and then at the bottom. If you're getting them all within like 0.5 millimetre of each other, then you've got it about as square as it's going to be. Okay, once you've got it square, nip the lock nut up, it's going to stay there. And that means that the brake shoe surface will meet perpendicular to the mating face on the inside of the drum, which is huge, and it weighs several tons as well. So on the inside of the drum, you can see here, drums are in really good order here. They're slightly rusty because again I had to degrease this. You can see marks as well around the outside where someone's had to be a bit brutal levering it off. But this lip around the outside, it's like a moisture lip. That's the important lip there. So if that was cracked or broken, I'd be replacing the drum, but I don't have to. So we can get that done. I can get the wheels on the front then. Right, it's all together. I've got the shoes right off at the moment. As you can see, it rotates a lot easier than it was before. With the shoes back right off, I've adjusted the pins to make sure the shoes were parallel. The only drama I've got at the moment is it's very, very tough on the steering. So I'm going to slacken. I've already started to slacken this tie rod off. So if I slacken that one, and I slacken off the relay bolt underneath, the relay is this thing here, spring loaded, and obviously this clamp bolt here comes off because that attaches to the steering box over there, but underneath there is another arm. There is a drop arm there, and then there's the nut there. So if I drop that off as well, then I can test the relay, and I can also test the individual swivels to find out if the swivels are too tight or dry, or going to cause me problems when it comes to MOT. So that's what I'm going to do here. Undo that pinch bolt there, take this arm off, check these ball joints out. And unfortunately, you can't get this out with the arm on the relay. Might have been able to before the chassis extensions were put on, but you can't now. So it's just going to need taking off. I can't be faffed with it. It's coming off. It won't take long. And then I'll take the other arm off. This I find thoughtful, and I find it quite a lot on Land Rovers as well. The bolt head, 5/8, nut is 11/16. So basically you don't need to double up on your spanners and your sockets and everything, because you've got two completely different sizes there. Isn't that useful? Come on, you've got to admit that's useful. Mind you, we haven't got this thing apart yet, so let's get the bolt out first of all, and then I'm going to see if I can get the relay off. We'll take it from there. Right, getting this top arm off has proved to be a bit of a ball's ache, largely because my puller, the feet are too fat to fit between the top face and where it wasn't. You see I even had to take one of the bolts out in order for that to go roughly in place, and then it wouldn't fit. So in the end I just got violent with it, positioned cold chisel underneath the pitman, underneath the arm, I should say, and it has actually started to lift now, so I'll probably find I can get the other puller on it. There's a fair gap under there now, so if I wind this underneath, because I don't like using violence unless I absolutely have to. And even that, you see, it's not going to quite reach. Oh, it will now. There we are. Okie doke. Right, now we can go. So, what socket are we on that? We're going to be a probably 17, I would have thought. 19. Ha, 19 it is. What a guess. Oh, yes. And it's just a case then of having lifted it enough, I can now use a puller to lift it the rest of the way off. Because I don't want to damage the relay. That now is starting to come up. So all I had to do really was to begin it just by putting chisel underneath it. Probably find that'll come off now. It's still not quite far enough. It's bottomed out. Good, that's good news, isn't it? I'm going to put a nut underneath it now and then just pull it up a little bit further. So just drop a nut into the hole there. And you see this thing is mercilessly tight. Bastard thing. So I'm going to find a big old nut, drop it in the hole. In fact, that will probably do it there. Let's take the nut off that. Dry as a witch's tit, this thing is. Right, that's going to work, I think. You can't see because I'm working one-handed as is usual. And then wind him in. I decided to do this just to show you that these things can come apart. You don't need dynamite, although this one might need dynamite yet. Right, okay, so continue to lift. You see, it's quite a long spline on this thing. There it goes. More of this off now. There it comes. Oh, you fucker! Right, there we go. And the arm's off. One arm off. Top of relay. Right, what happens to the nut? I'll replace it, but I wanted to put the nut. It's probably still in there. Right, okay, so that's good news. So that's off. Now I need to do the same thing with the other end. You can see there that the rust on those splines. When you put these things together, can you like put some anti-seize in it or something? A little bit of WD-40, not WD-40, what am I fucking talking about? A little bit of copperies or something along those lines. It just makes someone's life a little bit easier. 10 metres down the line. Yeah? Getting that off was way more difficult than it needed to be. Right, now good news is I can get this arm out. You see that's gone in. I mean, I generally put the tapered fitting in dry. But the thread's as dry as a witch's tit too. That's going to be a phrase that I'm going to be using quite a lot today, I fear. But now that's off, I can check those ball joints and start assessing what's going on with this relay. Put this little bolt back in again, because I don't want any part of the relay to be flying open on me. There's a nice little spring in there. You can assemble them on the bench, but I'd rather not unless I have to. Oh, Mr. Gravity, been a while. So just put that back in. It's just a little retaining plate on the top. I don't think this actually gains access to the spring. I just think this is a retaining plate. These things are a bastard to get out of the chassis, by the way, if you have to. You really don't want to. When I got one out of the Series 2A over there, I actually ended up having to cut the chassis open around it to retrieve the relay because I could not get the relay to shift. In theory, you undo the bolts, shift the bolts out, and then you should be able to drift it upwards. No, I had the weight of the car hanging off it while I was hitting it with a 5-pound hammer, and it wasn't shifting. It was completely rusted into the chassis rail. So they can be a complete and utter bastard to get apart. Let's hope we don't have to go that far. Got them all off. All fairly straightforward. Usual technique of undoing the nut, not worrying about releasing the tension on the thread. Otherwise, these nuts never come off. Like this one. So I've undone that nut. and I can't get the drop arm that goes to the steering box, but I'm not worried about that for the moment. So what have we got? So this is the tie bar that joins the two front hubs together, and let me put it on the tripod, it'll be a lot easier. Got the tripod. Now I've got a splinter in my finger for some reason. That's nice. Right, okay. This one is ruined. There's just like that much play in it. So that one's definitely coming off. Goes to the other end of the tie bar, and similar sort of condition. In fact, you can see where the seal has failed here because it's allowing crap and moisture in there. So both of those are going to need to come off and be replaced, which is a shame. I can't imagine either of those are going to pass an MOT. Clonk, clonk. Hear it? So that's not good. Then we've got the drop arm, or the drag link. So this is the one that goes from the steering relay down to the passenger side hub. So we've got this side here. It's a bit knocky on its absolute extremes, but otherwise it might survive. It's gritty though, really. It's not good. If I'm doing the others, I might as well do that one as well. And the last one we've got on the drag link. Oh, see, that's how they should be. That's nice. But again, there's no seal, there's no clip around the top of the rubber seal. So whichever monkey put this on didn't think that was necessary, because you can see the grease is actually coming out of it. But that joint there, happy with that one, that's good. And then the last joint we've got, well, two more joints. These are on the, I suppose, the drag link that goes from the steering box down to the relay. I'll do this one. That one I'm reasonably happy with. That works, which is good news because that arm's seized on there anyway. I didn't want to get any heat into it. This end, which goes onto the relay itself, I've got a nut in it for some reason. Gator is not split. Again, that feels quite good. That one's okay. So it looks like three of the joints are good and one less so. Sorry, three of the joints are good and three less so. Let's put that into English, eh? Right, going to have a look at the hubs now. See how these fellas are behaving. So, where are we? So. Right, so the hub is actually swivelling on its pins really easily, which I wasn't able to do when it was all connected together. And the ball joints are all relatively free, so they certainly wouldn't have hindered its rotation. And this one, similarly, swivel pins are in a good set up state of play. Relay. I know this thing's got a good big spring in it. Right, that ain't shifting. So, and I think I should be able to turn that. Bollocks. I'll tell you, there's some more bollocks involved with this as well. Observe. There's a nasty little surprise awaiting. Ready? Are you ready? That seal's not going to last. Seal's not going to last long on that. In fact, I suspect these swivels are empty, because I can't imagine that a seal would allow. In fact, there's some oil at the bottom there. It's all down at the bottom here, so I'd imagine this swivel housing is empty. So all that fucking work with the brakes, I'm going to have to take it all apart again. In fact, what I'll do is I will disconnect the pipe here, take the whole back plate off in order to get to the swivel housing. I wish I'd looked at that before. There you go, that's hindsight for you. And then we thought, well, let's have a look at the other side, see what joys this has got. Fuck me, it's worse. How can it be worse? Plugs out. It's already full of bloody one stop, or I say full of one stop. I've not been able to find any in there yet. So if I go into the hole, I would expect it to be level with the top here. And it's not touching it. Nothing. So I'm going to put a load of EP90 in it. And we'll see how much it drips out. Really not helpful, is it? Anyway, we mustn't grumble. It's not seemly to grumble.